Like, what kind of stuff are the Latin Kings responsible for?
Yeah. I ain't gonna go that deep into it.
No, that's fair. That's fair. He still got the code. He still got the code. I like it.
You know, so then, and basically in that initiation, they just trying to see, are you about it? Like, can you withstand this type of a beating? I want to be a gangster. And I'm thinking like, you know, this is the aim. This is the music I'm listening to. This is the culture that's shaping me, right?
When you are in prison, is that when the faith journey starts?
I'm holding my little girl, but I'm fully restrained. Belt, handcuffs, shackles. And as I'm holding her,
Ruslan.
Here with a new friend, Andy Periano Rebirth. Did I say it right?
You almost got it.
Man, you have a crazy story. I saw a bit of it on another YouTube channel. Of course, the Latin Kings are infamous with online culture and all offline culture.
Right.
And you were in that world, deep in that world, and turned it all around. So folks who've never heard of you, give us a little bit of your background.
Cool. Woo. How far are we going back?
Let's go back.
Back? Nah, you know, I caught my first felony when I was like 12 years old.
Hold on. I got arrested at 11 years old. You caught a felony?
Yeah, 12 years old.
What was the felony?
Now, it was stealing clothes, but it was over $100. So then they made it a felony. I don't know if you remember Jabot jeans. Oh, they was fly out here too?
Yeah.
Okay, because where I'm from, if you had some Jabots, so we were stealing Jabots and we were selling it on the street.
Okay.
And then we got jammed up for that. And then my partner, actually, he got caught because we was already got away. We was getting away with it. He got caught. He ended up taking his charge. And later on, he ended up way later. But that was 12 years old. And 13, 14, possession of marijuana. And then they kicked my mom's door in, possession of a stolen weapon. Then 14, 15, I got jumped in the Latin Kings. You know, at 14, 15, I be saying, you know, I let 5 grown men jump me to be their friend. Like, if you really want to keep it real, like, that's exactly what it was. And
what made you want to join the Latin Kings?
And I'm going to tell you, because really, movies like American Me, movies like Blood In, Blood Out, you know what I'm saying? Like, looking at that and growing up with Scarface and all of that, and I'm thinking my culture, because I grew up around mostly African-American people, and then there's like Latin America, these all Latin dudes, and I'm thinking it's like American Me, like, is, you know, and the guy, well, a door was open with me with them, and I'm like, man, I'm thinking I'm gonna be a part of something great, because I'm hearing the Latin Kings, largest Latin street gang in the nation, you know, so really wanting to be down and just gravitating to what I'm seeing in Hollywood and all of that, because now I'm thinking like, this is what's up, this is what I want to be.
So was it like a neighborhood thing? You guys were in the same proximity, or was it more of like just random grown men around the way that want to?
Yeah, it was proximity, because I got jumped in the New Orleans chapter.
Okay.
And then they had a Kenner chapter. I'm from the West Bank, right? So that's basically like 15 minutes away. So my cousin was a Latin King because he lived in that section in Mid-City in New Orleans. And then another guy just got out of LTI that knew my other cousin. So he was with us, and we getting in fights, just wilding, like not even with a gang, you know? So then when he seen that, he said, man, look, you want to be a part of this? Like, I could get you in. I'm in, you know, and he had rank. So I'm like, yeah, let's do it, you know? So
how old were you when you
I was 14, 15 years old.
And what was that like? How old were the dudes that jumped you in?
They was like 20-something and like their late teens, early 20s.
What was that like? What's the process of getting jumped in like?
So it's 5 people, you know, they come and they give you 3 minutes, right? And this is like the self-righteousness, because they don't stomp you out. So like if you fall down, they let you get back up, you know? So then, and basically in that initiation, they just trying to see, are you about it? Like, can you withstand this type of a beating? Like, are you going to just ball up? You know, if you ball up, you're not ready, you know? So as they started the time, we fighting, and I end up getting my back against the wall, and I'm hitting it. And every time I went down, couple times they hit me when I was down, but they would stop it, and then we do it again. But I remember like thinking like, I remember while we fighting and they jumping me, I'm like, man, what's the time? What's the time? Like, bro, that must have been the longest 3 minutes of my life. I felt like they was giving me more time. I'm like, what's the time? And they're like, you got it. And then I hit the 3 minutes, and they all dap me off with the crown, and they do this thing when they dap you off with the crown and they touch the points, they bring it to the heart, and they throw a pitchfork down, and they say, amor de rey. And that means love from the king, you know, king love. but it's like, you know, it's just so many biblical parallels. Like the initiation, like when you get jumped in, they call it the baptism. Oof. You know, and then the meetings that we had, they call it church.
Wow.
You know, so it's just, and then just thinking like I grew up Catholic, you know, and there's a lot of Catholicism in the roots of it. Like they got a constitution, right? So like bylaws. And it's a lot of biblical principles in there, you know, but there's a lot of things, you know, it's like that little leaven, right? Like you ain't gonna believe it if it's all lie, but there was a lot of truth in it, but it was just a mess, man. Because then when you got to the root of it, a lot of people wasn't even going by that constitution.
So they had their own rules, but many people weren't even following the rules.
Like you're not supposed to do drugs, not supposed to sell drugs. You're not supposed to like be with another brother's woman, you know, like, so it's all of these things that seem honorable, right? And then when you look at the point, love, honor, respect, you know what I'm saying? So it's these things that you think like there's nothing wrong with that, like this is something great. But then like when you really get into it, like when they would call church and have meetings, they would pass the hat around, like kind of like passing a basket. And that money's supposed to go to other brothers that was incarcerated and just help other people in the neighborhood and things to that nature. But like I said, I let 5 grown men jump me to be their friend. What would I have to do to keep that friendship, right? Well, that led to a 1st-degree attempted murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of aggravated criminal damage, and it was gang-related. And probably a couple of months before that, I had got jammed up with a 1st-degree robbery. So then I was on house arrest. Then I got off of house arrest. So I was still on paper on juvenile when I caught the attempt murder and they charged me as an adult.
And this is all as you're a teenager?
This is all as a teenager.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a documentary in like the mid-2000s about the Latin Kings, and they had this very charismatic leader that was almost like he was almost like a pastor. He's like a cult leader.
Yeah.
It was a trip.
Yeah.
Was that King Love? And he ended up King Blood. Okay. Yeah. And then he was seemingly trying to be positive and turn it around, but they were making it seem like they were going after him and persecuting him. How connected were you to the national chapter, and like how was the infrastructure? Are you familiar with what I'm describing here?
Yeah. So all right. So the guy that brought it down to New Orleans, he come from Chicago. That's what they consider the motherland where it started. So he came from Chicago and opened up the book, had permission from them to start the chapter. So then, but see, the thing about New Orleans, gangs never really survived in New Orleans. Like there's a heavy spirit of division. But when you go back to the roots of it, like whenever they would have the slave trade, that's where they would bring, right there where Jackson Square is at, and they would behead the fathers. They would divide the families right there. That's a lot of the second line because it was a port where they would meet their families that they never met before, right? So when this would come, so there's a heavy spirit of division. So even the Latin Kings, the New Orleans chapter started beefing with the Kenner chapter and the Metairie chapter, but we're all supposed to be together. You know what I'm saying? So the Constitution all come from that. But then by the time it got here, I can't attest to how they was running it in New York and in Chicago because that was the main chapters, right? But I just know what was going on in New Orleans, you know, and it wasn't in direct alignment with what I perceived it to be.
So from your standpoint, you're a teenager, you're impressionable. You think you're a part of this, you know, honorable brotherhood that's going to give you order and structure, which young men desire.
Right.
I think young men need order, need structure, need purpose. And then as you get deeper into it, you start seeing that, oh, these folks aren't even congruent to the values they claim to have. When did that light bulb go off for you? But
I can't leave out, it was also pride.
Okay.
That had me wanting to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be a gangster, and I'm thinking like, you know, this is what you like. This is the aim. This is the music I'm listening to. This is the culture that's shaping me, right? So I want to do everything. These rappers, and I want to be better than them. I want to do this, right? And then even seeing that it wasn't like they said it was, but when in all actuality, I really wanted to do drugs and sell drugs. But if I'm gonna be with this and this is what we're gonna do, but when I get in and see they're doing other things too, and I'm like, because that's how I'm making money, you know? So I'm like, okay, well, this is what's up. I'm looking past what even the Constitution goes. And I guess in my immature mind, I'm not looking at, they're not holding fast to these values, so what else is a lie? You see what I'm saying? I'm just thinking about that now. I never looked at it that deep when I'm in it. It's almost like a pig not knowing it's dirty. You know what I'm saying?
And what kind of activities were the Latin Kings involved with, and how organized were they? They selling? You said you're not supposed to sell,
Right.
but it seems like some people were.
Yeah.
Are they as like sophisticated as the mafia? Are they out here running these rackets with oil and gas? Like the mob seem crazy, or is it like in between petty street crime? Like what kind of stuff are the Latin Kings responsible for?
Yeah. No, it was pretty. It was pretty structured. It was pretty structured.
Okay, and so
I ain't gonna go that deep into it.
No, that's fair. That's fair. He still got the code. He still got the code. I like it.
It ain't
I like. He said, "I'm not finna."
I don't want to get indicted after this show. You
Fair
know
enough.
Like,
fair enough. So, as you go through this journey, you end up in prison at some point.
Yeah.
And was you say that was a correlation of the gang life, or was it just the correlation of just wanting to wild out?
Yeah. It was all hand in hand with that life.
Okay.
Right? And then it was like when the 16, when they charged me as an adult, I remember, being in there and I'm on the 3rd floor. Like I'm on a project pod. Like they're announcing when I go in, y'all got a Latin King in here. So it was a lot, right? But my grandma, mi abuelita, she always sowed seed of Jesus. Jesus is Lord. Jesus is King.
This before or after you go to
This is
prison?
before. This is me growing up. Like I remember her dragging me to church. Like she like eat, sleep, bleed, breathe the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like when we were sick, she would lay hands on us. And she always told me there's power in the name of Jesus Christ. And she would plead the blood over me, like the old sayings. Plead the blood over him from the head to toe. And, so whenever I went in there at 16, I remember I'm 17. I made my 17th birthday. They charged me as an adult. But I remember when the lights would go out, I'd find myself at the cell doors reading the Bible off of the light from the hallway. And I read the whole Bible when I was in there at 17 years old.
Wow.
From Genesis to Revelation. I'm not gonna say I attained all of the, but I knew enough to know that there's power in this book, and this is the only thing that's gonna get me out of here. You
knew that at 17.
I knew that at 17. Because of what my grandma instilled in me, the seeds that she sowed in me. Like I always say, you seen that movie War Room?
I don't think I've seen it.
You never seen War Room? They were fire movie, but they owe my grandma royalties, you heard me? Because they had an old lady in there, and she had a war room with scriptures, and she'd cry out to the Lord. Like, this was my grandma, you know what I'm saying? But so I'm reading it, and I read the whole thing, and I'm talking about I end up getting a bond reduction. So after 3 months, I get a bond reduction, I get out. When I get out, I go to my juvenile probation officer, Ms. Williams. God bless Ms. Williams. So I had favor with her. So she let me finish all of my community service. So once I finished all my community service, she was able to terminate me. Now they revoked my bond because I had a crown medallion, and that was part of the stipulation. I couldn't have any gang ties. They revoked my bond, but my community service is done. So Ms. Williams terminates my juvenile PO and hands me over to the adult system, which helped me because then I was a first offender. So by me being a first offender, I could get minimum sentences, right? Because before I would have had to do the adult time, and then I would have to do the juvenile time because I was still young enough to go to LTI because juvenile life is till 21, So all of that worked in my favor, and I got I got credit for time served after serving like a little over a year with a 5-year suspended sentence.
So this is when you're a teenager,
17,
for the
attempted murder.
Attempted murder.
Yeah.
And so how is the relationship with the gang while you're away? Are they taking care of you? What is the, I'm assuming you're moving up the ranks. Is there a hierarchy where there's put money on your books? What was it like being in?
There's definitely a hierarchy because everything is order. Like they do have order and structure. You know what I'm saying? But see, in this situation, like that's when I started seeing like things like as far as the people that I was in my circle, like it just wasn't lining up. So I always had my partners like from my neighborhood, like like just the people I grew up with. 2 of them got murdered, the other 2 overdosed. This was like my core friends that I grew up with. Like they're not here, but then the other dudes that took me in, because when I was 16, 15, I got kicked out and I was living with them. These all street dudes, dope boys, right? They're not in the gang. They was really like something like, why you in the gang? Like you know, we getting money, we doing this and everything that the streets entail, right? So then when I got home, I more roll with them. So when I roll with them, I really wasn't feeling the Kings no more because I felt like they ain't hold it down the way I would feel like you should have held it down.
While you were locked down.
While I was locked down and why I was locked down. Like the whole thing. So
why were you locked? Why is that why I was locked down significant in the story?
Because it was a part of something that was gang activity. You know what I'm saying? So there's
and you feel like because you put in work for the gang,
there was work that needed to be put in to help like the whole thing go away in essence, right? And just, you know, in my immature mind, this is what I'm in, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, so I wasn't feeling none of that.
So you not really being into that, did that come with consequences from the gang?
So now, like I told you, I'm running with some real street dudes, right? So, and they was getting money. And you know, so more money we getting, like, we could go to war, like like I ain't even tripping about y'all. So I ended up getting locked back up, right? So when I got locked back up, I got locked back up 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25, got home 26, 27, got locked back up 28, 29, got out 30. But in the midst of that, I was taken, because the Kings and the Bloods ride under the 5, it's the People's Nation. So I was locked up with other Bloods. So then we ended up taking the Constitution and implementing these things and starting the OKBN, Outlaw King Blood Nation, where we joined the Kings with the Bloods and ran the entire compound. So then when I took it to the streets, like the dude that brought the flag, I remember seeing him and he's like, man, who gave you the authority to open that book? I was like, I gave myself the authority to open that book. Because I give you, pride comes before I'm ready, like, what do y'all want to do? Because we was really getting money. I was dealing with the cartel in Houston, so it's like that arrogance. That's why I know God had a hedge of protection on me, because it ain't like I'm no super gangster. It's that God, like, you know, he's the author and finisher of our faith. He's seen the end from the beginning. So that I was ready to, like, you know, that's a big part of my story, because I used to do the rap too. I used to rap for the world, open up for Kevin Gates, open up for VH1 Love and Hip Hop. But that was us taking the money, putting the money into the music and a way of washing the money. You know, so I really was ready to, like, whatever they want to do, you know?
And so did that situation defuse? Did that culminate to something more serious? Or did you just kind of able to just pivot over into more of the running with the dope boys activities? Yeah,
well, that's what I went. I just really wasn't even worried about them. And a lot of, like I told you, gang culture really didn't live in the city. So when the Kenner and the Meta, when they started beefing with each other, and then people started going to jail, and they did a sweep, and a lot of people got deported, so they wasn't as strong as they was. So that's why, I'm like, what y'all going to do? You know what I'm saying? And that's just a part of pride, arrogance, the enemy. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so I really this is going into the rest of the testimony, because I end up, when I got saved and everything, I met with the 2 dudes that had rank and all of that. You know, there is consequences to everything, but the Bible says when a man's ways is pleasing to the Lord, he'll make even his enemies at peace with him.
So when you are in prison, is that when the faith journey starts?
So no.
Okay.
No.
When does the faith aspect hit you? You said you read the Bible.
Right. I read the whole Bible the first time. So when I went upstate to prison, I was 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And I was just doing everything. Like, I felt like my rationale at the time was, why I'm gonna do good in jail, I should have did that on the street. So now I'm not gonna do good in here, because if I was going to be good, I should have did that on the street. So I'm going to be even worse. And then so I was, you know, going back and forth to the whole, I did 23 months in solitary confinement. Like,
what was that like? Like
locking yourself in the bathroom for 23 months straight, right? Then I hear the dude 2 cells down from me, and you could hear him changing his mind, because it sounded like somebody was fighting in the cell, and we're in 1-man cell because we're on maximum security. So he was trying to get his feet back up on the desk to breathe, but it sounded like somebody fighting in there for a minute. Then it got quiet. Then when the man came down, he just runs off the tier. Then he comes back, paramedics, everything. He was out of here, and he only had 1 year. He only had 1 more year to go home. You know, so
solitary confinement kind of breaks people like that.
Yeah, because it's like you can't see nobody, you can hear them. You know what I'm saying? But it's like you're just locked in there. You're locked in there. The only time you get to get out is to shower for 10 minutes, but you're fully restrained. They bring you down to another cage, which is the shower. They close that and they take the cuffs off, but you're still shackled.
Why did you go into solitary confinement for that long?
Well, because I got inciting a riot in Allen. So then when I got shipped on inciting a riot, that was a whole thing. Whenever I get to the new prison, they waiting for me at the door. Hey, Pellerano, 39736, put your hands behind your back. So I'm going in there, and it's like every prison feels like when you get shipped on disciplinary, they feel like you think you bad. That prison couldn't deal with you, but we're going to break you over here. You know, and then it's just the arrogance, like the rebelliousness, you know, so just not like having an attitude, trying to portray this image, like being a slave to your own name. So it just got me in worse trouble to where I'm getting gassed down. So you get a rule infraction. You mess up, you go to the working cell block. When you mess up in the working cell block, then you go to extended lockdown, which they label your maximum security prisoner. So you like a threat to security. So every time you leave that cell, you have to be fully restrained. So when they bring you on a yard, if they bring you on a yard, it's just like it's like almost like a dog kennel. The sun's out, you know, but you're fully restrained in a cage, but you get to walk a little more. So and that's if they bring you out. But one thing that really like God used that really saved me, it was reading, because I was never a reader, but they had this library cart that would come through every Saturday morning. So then I just started getting, you get 3 books. But they never reloaded the cart. So after you read, like, man, I'm talking about, I read every book on the cart. I felt like I was going to the movies. Like, I couldn't wait for that set. And I would just engulf myself in reading and tell my dudes down the tier, like, if y'all not reading, just get the books and pass them down to me, you know? So, I'm talking about, I'm reading. First, I started with the suspense novels like Sidney Sheldon, and then it started with the horror novels. Then I went, because I'm reading the whole cart. Now I'm on the prairie with Louis Lamar reading cowboy books because he's just taking me out of here. Then I'm talking about, I'm even reading romance novels because I just need to get something to outlet. Yeah. But then it's like I'm taking words that I don't know. I'm writing them down, and I'm getting the definition of those words. Then I'm getting different books. I had The Art of War. I had the Machiavelli, I had Sun Tzu, I had everything you could think of. I had a Quran, I had Buddhism, and I had the Bible. And I read everything except the Bible. So I'm filling myself with this full knowledge puffing up, right? And it's like thinking I'm about to start this empire when I hit the street. And in the process of that, I'll never forget, man, because there's no such thing as coincidence. I go on visit. And when I go on visit, I'm non-contact because I'm on extended lockdown. But this day, the visiting shed, when you in extended lockdown, was in cell block A, which is not their main compound, right? So it was just like a desk with a partition. You know how like coming up when you had tests, like you could easily look over?
Right.
And that's how the non-contact visit was. So I'm fully restrained, belt, handcuffs, shackles. And then the officer, me and him was cool because he had a bet on who would get in a fight with this dude when he hit the compound. And I was the working cell block, and I was the one, me and him, like, boom. But anyway, so me and him was cool, and he let me hold my little girl. He was like, man, let him hold this little girl. She was like 2 years old when I first got locked up, and at this point in time, she was about 6 years old. So she's like, and we were having a good visit, smiling, laughing. She was like, Daddy, what this is? And she grabs my handcuffs. I'm like, it was brand new, so I'm doing like that. Like, oh, baby, that's my bracelets. You don't see Daddy shining over here? She's looking. She's like, well, what this is? And then she grabs my shackles, and I'm sitting down, so I'm making them jump like a jump rope. I said, oh, that's my jump rope. She looks. She said, you look stuck.
Oof.
You look stuck. So then she asks me again, Daddy, what this is? And I said, handcuffs. She said, Daddy, what this is? And she grabs my shackles. I said, shackles. And she says, why they got you like that, Daddy? I said, because Daddy was being bad, and this is Daddy's punishment. She's like, well, promise me you're not going to be bad anymore. Promise me you're not going to be bad anymore because I need you home with me, Daddy. I need you home with me, Daddy. I'm looking at my beautiful little girl, and she's like, like pleading, like not understanding, like thinking it's just daddy, like just promise me you're not gonna be bad no more so you could come home because I need you home. And then she starts asking me, because she's mixed. So she's like, Daddy, what colors mom? Daddy, what color are you? And then she say, well, so Daddy, what color am I? Like, what does that make me? And I was like, man, I'm talking about it's busting me up. But I can't cry because there's other people on visit. Remember, I gotta portray this image. I gotta live up to this image. I'm a slave to my own name. But when I got in that cell, because I'm in a one-man cell, when I got in that cell that night, I got on my knees and I cried out to the Lord. And it just like, it breaks me because it's like my daughter didn't know her identity because her father wasn't in her life. And it really like fuels what I do now because I'm like, there's a whole world that don't know their identity because they're not in their father's life, right? Because that's who gives us identity. But to go a step further, the rate of men being incarcerated and men just not being in the children's lives, you got a generation that's fatherless, and we wondering why we seeing what's going on, and that's why the accountability is on us as the church, because we're the light of the world, a city on the hill that cannot be hidden. So what we look like arguing with the darkness when darkness ain't even a thing, it's the absence of light. So we can't get mad at the dark. The dark is dark. We got to shine the light to overtake the dark.
Come on.
And bro, like I prayed that night and I cried out to the Lord, and I wish I could say I got it all together then, right? Because I went home like a dog returning back to its vomit. And like I told you, now I want to start an empire. Now the people that when I left them, they're on a whole nother level. So now they're on a whole nother level. I come home, I'm getting $5,000 cash, 10 pounds a week, half a brick of raw coke, an accurate TL. So this is like keeping me buying. Like you talked about the gang, like the Latin Kings, but it was like my street dudes that kept it 100. Like they were sending my mama money. They were sending me money. When I discharged, they had my clothes in the mailroom. Gucci hat, Gucci belt, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's what was keeping me, because it, on the standard of the world, it was like they was keeping it real. So it was harder to break that tie because I felt like I owed them, like they was real, you know what I'm saying? But that's why I did a whole series called Frenemies, because people can only keep it as real as they know to keep it. If they're not kingdom-minded, their real is not real because ain't nothing realer than Jesus. We know that, you know, bless God, you hear me?
Why wait until this entire thing premieres on YouTube? Why not sign up for a free 7-day trial of our Patreon community and see this entire interview, as well as all of our interviews, early before they hit the public. And you'll also get access to the extended version of our conversations that are sometimes a little too spicy for YouTube. All right, so head on over to Patreon. Link is in the description or pinned comment. Sign up over there, and I'll see you there. All right, peace.